Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Off the Shelf. Today we are talking diverse authors, which is the January theme for our 2021 EAPL Reading Challenge. If you are looking for some inspiration for that, you are in the right place. Very quickly, I want to touch on what we mean by diversity. Books have an amazing ability to act as both mirrors, reflecting our own experiences back on us, and windows, allowing us to see experiences and lives different from our own. In this challenge, we are very much focused on books acting as windows. So find an author who has a different lived experience from you, and almost certainly their book will reflect their lived experience. By doing this, we are readers who do this regularly, who seek out different kinds of experiences. They tend to be, studies show, they tend to be more understanding and empathetic. And I think that that is something we very much need in this world, is more understanding and empathy. So please take this as an opportunity to experience something new, to learn about someone else's experience, and to understand it. That's my soapbox. I'm getting down. We're going to talk about books. I have a whole bunch of books here for you. I'm going to butcher some names because even though I Googled how to pronounce them, that is no guarantee that I will do it correctly. Now, let's see where to start. Let's start here. How about Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert is a Black British woman, and her character, Chloe Brown, is a Black British woman. She is also plus size and lives with chronic illness. So this is a good opportunity to see how someone in those different things relates to the world, right? How a plus-size woman relates to the world, how a Black woman relates to the world, how someone suffering from chronic illness relates to the world. It is a romance. It's very cute. Chloe Brown, I loved her. She's such a fun character. And it really allows you to see how such things actually impact her life. Then, totally different direction here. We have Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. He is a Jewish American man, and all of his books are very heavily influenced by that identity. And this book actually is about identity and about how we all have so many different identities, and they intersect and they overlap, but sometimes they're in conflict with one another. So this book really touches on that theme. I think if you are looking for the Jewish male experience, he's a good voice for that. There aren't a lot of them out there that aren't like Holocaust and whatever, and while the Holocaust is super important and we all need to learn about it, that's not all that being Jewish is, right? Like, there's a whole history and culture, and there's not a lot of authors writing about that. So if that's something that interests you, Jonathan Safran Foer is a good one for that. Then I have Legend Born by Tracy Dion. She's a Black woman from North Carolina. Her main character is a young woman, also Black, from North Carolina. And as you can tell from this amazing cover, it has to do with magic. It's YA, and so it's the magic that's hidden in our everyday world, basically. So if that's something that interests you, check this one out. This one I have a really hard time with the title. I don't know why. Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Thien. And this one is about two generations of a Chinese family during the Mao Cultural Revolution in China. The author is the daughter of a Malaysian Chinese father and a Hong Kong Chinese mother. So, despite the fact that both of her parents are Chinese, one being Malaysian and one being from Hong Kong, they have their own very different experiences of what it is to be Chinese. And then Madeleine herself is Canadian Chinese. So, again, you have these very different experiences influencing where they're coming from, right? How they live their lives, how she's telling this story. Then we've got Fat Girl Walking by Brittany Gibbons. She is a blogger, and she's really intent on facilitating the discussion around fat, people taking back the term fat, plus size, whatever, and the fact that they're normal everyday people, and that being a certain size doesn't preclude you from being happy and from living a normal life, which if you are alive and awake in the world, you should be like, yeah, duh. There's so many fat people around. Obviously, we're all living our lives, right? Whatever. But our media would have us believe that if you are more than a size 8, 10, something like that, that there's something wrong with you. Not only physically, but perhaps morally. And that's just not true. Brittany's here to tell you in a funny voice how that is not the case. So if you're looking for how that works, let me tell you a very quick story. It's going to be the longest video ever, and I apologize already. I have a grandmother who was very thin her whole life, and she and my aunt were watching something on TV, and I don't know how it came up, but something on the TV mentioned your thighs rubbing together when you walk, which for people who are not very thin is super common, right? And my grandmother turned to my aunt and went, "Oh, that must be horrible," because she'd never experienced that, and it never occurred to her that it was a thing. So these experiences that are very common for some people are not for others. So if this is not your lived experience, this is a good place to find out more. Then we have, what is this? Unaccustomed Earth by Jhumpa Lahiri. And this is a collection of short stories. Jhumpa Lahiri is Bengali. Well, her family is Bengali. She was born in Rhode Island. But this is a collection of short stories that are kind of all over the globe. So if you're looking for that sort of perspective, but in short stories, this is an awesome choice for that. Ooh, that stuff's slipping around here, guys. Then we have The Good Son by Yu Zhang. And this one is a thriller. It's a skinny one, too. It's a short thriller. Where a man wakes up with a metallic taste in his mouth and a missed call from his mother, and then finds out that she was murdered. So he has to figure out what happened. It's shocking and thrilling, according to the back. So I believe it was also made into a movie. So if that's up your alley, then this is a great one. Yu Zhang is known as Korea's Stephen King. So awesome. If you're looking for some Korean thriller, this is a good choice. Then we have Everybody Looking by Candace Elo is what I'm going to go with on that one. She is the child of Nigerian immigrants, and this is a very autobiographical novel about a young woman, also the child of Nigerian immigrants, who moves away from home for the first time, goes to college to study dance. And I don't know if y'all know this, but the dance world is super duper white. And there are a lot of inherent biases and microaggressions in terms of racism in the dance world, even the color of the tights, things like that. So this is a very interesting look at that from someone who basically, this is her lived experience, and she's just written it in a fictionalized form. Then we have When Dimple Met Rishi by Sondaya Menon. Again, that's what I'm going with. She is of Indian descent. Her characters are Indian. The parents want to set these two teenagers up, arrange a marriage between them. Dimple, the girl, is very much against arranged marriages, while Rishi is, he's more of a romantic. He thinks an arranged marriage is romantic because who knows him better than his parents, and who's going to find him a better match? So the two end up meeting, not through their parents initially, and it's very, very cute. It's an Indian YA rom-com, basically, and it always makes me want Thai tea. Then we have Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir by Jenny Lawson. Jenny Lawson's another blogger. You can find her at theblogs.com, and this is one of a few books that she's written. I think she has a new one coming out in 2021 also. And she is very open with her mental health struggles and chronic illness struggles, and she talks with a lot of humor about living with those different issues. And we have Behold the Dreamers by Imbolo Mbue. And she is from Cameroon. And this book is about two Cameroon immigrants in the 1990s living in Harlem. And the man goes to work for an executive of Lehman Brothers. And he thinks, like, this is it. He's living the American dream. Everything's happening. Things are happening. But if you recall from the 1990s, the Lehman Brothers, it's not good news. Then we have There by Tommy Orange, who is a member of the, I believe, Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. This book is about several Native Americans traveling to a big powwow in Oakland, California, and it's one of those stories where all of the characters seem unconnected, and then as the story progresses, both the characters and the reader realize that they're more connected than you thought. So as far as Native American voices go, Native American stories, this is a good one for that. And we have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Wang. And Helen Wang is, this is like a neurodiversity situation. She was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, used to be called Asperger's syndrome, in 2016. So her main character has the same diagnosis, and she approaches life very much influenced by how her brain operates as someone with autism spectrum disorder. This is a romance, so you get to see all of the hang-ups that come along with being neuroatypical and how that influences how you approach personal relationships of various kinds. I just got a couple more, guys. We have Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. Both of them are part of the LGBTQIA community. I believe it's Corey McCarthy she's gender non-binary. So I guess they're gender non-binary. And this one is a female Arthurian legend, basically, but the characters are all somewhere in the along, I guess, the queer spectrum, I guess you could say. There is someone who identifies as asexual. There's definitely someone who identifies as gay. And getting to see all of these different characters kind of along that spectrum, written by authors who are themselves part of that community, but where that's just who they are. It's not, some cautionary tale. And that's something I do want to mention very quickly in all of these, but especially in books that feature characters that are LGBTQ, etc. Be very, very careful of falling into the trap that older books have written, where that automatically means that something bad is going to happen to this person. They're basically being punished for being gay, or something like that. Or a big one in YA for a while in like the 80s and 90s was, you have sex and then you're gonna die some horrible disease or something because you had sex as a teenager. Like, these are not useful stories, and it's very, very important to recognize that people are not going to be punished by the universe for being who they are, right? And that it doesn't define everything about them, right? It should not define everything about them. That's the entire point of recognizing and embracing diversity, is that being black should not be the only defining thing about you. Being gay should not be the only defining thing about you. If you are the main character in a story, being black or gay should not be what the story is about, right? You can be gay and still, like, go on adventures, and it just so happens that you're gay. So, it's my second soapbox of this video, but I feel like I need to mention that it is very problematic when an author writes a story where the characters are being punished, or where the character's entire experience in the book is centered on a single facet of who they are. That's not realistic, and it's harmful. So, I have 2 more books for you, and then we're done. I'm gonna stop preaching about all this. So, I have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I feel like I mentioned this one in a previous video, but then when I went back I couldn't find it on my list, so now I don't know, and I'm like, it's the Twilight Zone. Basically, it is about 2 girls who, one in the Dominican Republic, one in New York, living with her Dominican immigrant parents, and their father travels back and forth between the Dominican Republic because they are sisters and they are not aware of it. And then their father's plane crashes and they find out that he had 2 families and that they both exist, and then they have to live with this new reality of not only not having him, but having entire families that you didn't know about. So, like I said, Dominican, the author, Elizabeth Acevedo, is Dominican as well. So, there's that one. And then, last one for you is Alatso by Darcy Little Badger, who is a Lipan Apache. And this one is set in a world very much like our own, but there's some magic. I won't even say it's magical realism because it's more fantastical than that. But then at the heart of this story is a murder. The main character's cousin is murdered, and she has to find out what happened, who did it, in this whole magical world. So, based in some Native American legend and story, folklore, things like that. It's a beautiful book. There's a handful of illustrations throughout. It's beautiful. So, one last thing on this one. If you are looking for diversity, then really, there should be diversity everywhere, but your best bet is going to be the YA collection, because YA publishers over the last few years have done a really, really good job of seeking out and promoting diverse voices. I will say that I think at times they're in such a hurry to push out some of these new stories, new authors, that they're not as ready as they could be. And they could do with more editing, more revisions, things like that, and they feel rushed, right? That is sometimes the case. But there's nothing better when you're looking for diversity than the YA collection. So please consider YA. I will say that in general. If you're looking for a book, please consider YA, because YA is some of the most interesting stuff being published right now. But in terms of diversity, it's a one-stop shop for you. You can find anything that you might be looking for in YA. That's all I have for you today. As always, you can request personalized recommendations online through our website, eastonpl.org, and fill out a personalized recommendation request form, and we'll get back to you with a list of books that we think that you'll enjoy. There will be another video coming soon for you, so stay tuned. My foot is asleep because I've been sitting on the floor to film this, so I will see you guys next time. Bye.